All right, follow Hokanson on Twitter @_J Hokanson. You can read him at Auburn Live, part of On3 Sports. He's coming out of a workout. You got you a good sweat there, Hoke.
Yeah, man. A little tired, but I'm all right.
All right, what'd you do? Did you ride the Peloton?
No, I don't do the Peloton. Just a little running.
You got to remember
little cardio.
The first rule about Peloton is you got to tell everybody you did it. If you don't tell everybody you did it, the workout didn't count.
Like CrossFit?
Yeah, like CrossFit. You got to tell everybody or the workout doesn't count. You don't really lose the calories. Hey, so I want to go back to the end of last week because going into what everybody knew was going to be a loss at Georgia and what most people thought would be what the actual result was, a blowout loss to Georgia, you wrote about some of the popular candidates for what will eventually be the open job at Auburn. We'll get to the candidates, but you continue to write and maintain that it is not going to stun you if Bryan Harsin finishes this regular season as the Auburn football coach.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Wouldn't shock me. I think nobody really knows. I wrote last week that things were trending towards him finishing the season. But, as you know, you go to Ole Miss, and if things fall apart and it looks terrible, it's college football in the South, and you got power brokers and president and boosters involved, and there's no telling what kind of decisions can be made. If you're going to do it, next week's – after going into the bye week's when you have to do it. It gives them time. You have a home game on the back side of the bye week. So if you're going to do it midseason, it's got to happen on Sunday after Ole Miss. If it doesn't, wouldn't completely shock me just because of the amount of upheaval, the potential of upheaval. If you remove Harsin, do you keep everybody else? Do you keep Kiesel and Schmedding? Do those guys want to stay on if they're super, super loyal to Bryan Harsin? I think that's a question. Who does the game planning? If those guys were to potentially leave, or you feel like it's not the best situation for them to be there after your Harsin's removed, who game plans offense and defense? And do you even give the team just a fighting chance to prepare week in and week out? So, I don't think it's a super easy decision, but we'll see after Saturday. If it's another blowout, then emotions run high, and then you just got to make a decision. There's got to be a plan in place, and I'm not sure there's a surefire, confident plan in place at the moment.
I know you're not necessarily in the locker room, but you've got sources. What are you hearing internally? What is the morality like right now? Or the
morale.
The morale, yeah. Yes. Morality coming up for I
think that they're saying all the right things publicly, but I think that the one thing he's got going for him is the captains, the guys, Shanker, the guys you have on Derek Hall, Owen Papo, those guys are bought in, and they're the captains. So there's going to be some leadership from those guys. I worry about everybody else. I worry about the guys that aren't getting much playing time, the Landon King, who decides to take a red shirt. He's got some medical issues, but he's also not happy with his playing time, and he takes a red shirt. And Tavares Dawson all of a sudden isn't playing, and I'm not sure how happy he is. And so there's just it's those guys that I worry about. I'm not really worried about Derek Hall coming to play, or Owen Papo coming to play, or Shanker coming to play, or Coy Moore, Shedrick Jackson, but it's everybody else. And when that happens, if it can really mess with the chemistry. So I don't know. If you go through another blowout loss to Ole Miss, you lose that game by 3 touchdowns. I think then you got some real question marks, and you start hearing stuff like, players only meeting and things like that. So for now, I think the right guys are in leadership positions, but it's everybody else that you really don't know. They might just be kind of sort of saying and doing the right things, but how invested are they at this point? I'm not sure.
This hour of the show brought to you by our friends at Champy's World Famous Fried Chicken, Highway 119 in Alabaster, champy'schicken.com. Check them out. Justin Hokanson's with us, Auburn Live on 3 Sports. If my version of heaven, Hoke, is doing interviews in heaven and still having my very popular sports show up there, this is the way I picture our Zoom interviews will be in heaven. The blurred background is really freaking me out. It's really a cool look. Yeah. No, I like it. I think it's a cool look.
It's like, are you in a car or...
I'm in a car. I just didn't. It was distracting. All it was distracting. So just blurred it out.
No, I like that a lot. Or if this is what hell is like for me, and I'm doing this show in hell, it's Hokanson finishing second in a wet T-shirt contest during my interviews. That would be my version of hell. As you get ready to play Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss,
I don't plan on being there if it's in hell.
Yeah, well, I'm just
I don't think who does either.
I'm doing this solo show. It's my heaven.
All right.
Or my hell. You may be there. It's my hell. Hoke's our former intern, by the way. He knows our relationship, mine and your relationship.
He knows how weird you are.
We don't get along. We don't get along. The Bryan Harsin news conference yesterday, as you get ready to play Ole Miss, was just a list of things that aren't going right now. And I try to ask you each week something positive that comes out of each game. And then last week is a rivalry loss, and it just did not seem like offensively there was anything to hang your hat on. Moving forward, give me one path to victory for Auburn. Auburn wins this game this week against Ole Miss if this happens. What's the path to victory for Auburn to win a game?
Oh, actually, I don't think it's too much of a stretch that if you think about the way Lane Kiffin operates, I go back to last year, Auburn won that game 31-20. But Auburn's defense stopped them a number of times on fourth down in Auburn territory. I mean, Ole Miss is driving, they're super aggressive, and Auburn stops them probably 3 or 4 times. I mean, that would be, I think, a somewhat realistic opportunity because you know how aggressive Lane Kiffin can be. So if Auburn can come up with some fourth down stops, if Kiffin continues to be super aggressive, then you've got a chance. I mean, you got a team that maybe instead of punting and pinning Auburn deep or in kicking a field goal, which is what you should do against Auburn right now, maybe he continues to go by the analytics and he just plays his game. And that would be a way that I could see Auburn hanging around if they could take advantage. If the defense comes up with a stop at the 35 or 40-yard line and then the offense has a shorter field. But if that coaching staff is smart and you see how Auburn's playing on offense, maybe you dial that back just a tad and you punt or you kick field goals and you don't give Auburn the opportunity. But I don't know that Lane Kiffin's like that. So, I mean, I think it's a realistic opportunity to where if he goes for it, Auburn can come up with some stops. You can hang around in the football game. But again, you can't turn the ball over. They continue to turn the ball over multiple times a game. They lead the country in fumbles. How they've only lost 5 fumbles out of 16, I have no idea. But Lane Kiffin's aggressiveness, that would potentially be a way to hang in there if it goes against him.
Justin Hokanson on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. When and if TJ Finley is back 100%, what do you envision the quarterback rotation looking like?
Oh, that's a good question, man. I don't really have a good answer because I think there's some dynamics at play with TJ behind the scenes. I mean, I don't know for sure, but you can't imagine that they were thrilled with his dad going on the radio. I'm not sure TJ's thrilled. And so, is there thoughts about him transferring? Does he want to come back in and just share the time? I don't know. You can't pull Robbie completely. I mean, he's kind of the only thing you've got going to try to make some plays. So he's a part of the game plan, period. And so then do you sit here and play Robbie Ash for 3-4 games consecutively and then go back to rotating? I mean, what good does that do? I mean, it was just as bad before that. So I don't know. I don't know what the plan's going to be at that point. Where is Harsin in this whole deal? Where do the coaching staff? What do they sort of think? Is it just like, hey, you know what? We're just going to let Robbie develop. I'm going to roll with it, period, and not go back and forth anymore in much of a headache. I don't know how they're going to handle it. I don't think they know how they're going to handle it if and when he comes back healthy.
Well, we know it's inevitable, whether it's next week or in 2 months. I mean, Bryan Harsin is going to be out. This job's going to be open. You wrote about it. Who are realistic candidates?
I would start with Jeff Grimes. He was a guy that was mentioned in February and is mentioned again now. There's serious interest there. I would mention Hugh Freeze. There's serious interest there, although, what I told our subscribers was, hey, right now, the new president, Chris Roberts, is not going to sign off on Hugh Freeze. And I don't think that that the new AD, whoever that is going to either. I mean, that's a lot of baggage for your very first football coach hire. And I don't think right now Roberts will sign off on that. I think it would take more than just missing on. I think it'd be missing on a few guys before Freeze became a legitimate candidate. I think Luke Fickell is in the mix as somebody that they're interested in. Look, Deion Sanders is a guy that is getting some push from people around Auburn. And I think that he would get a look. There's also people, though, that I'm not sure they don't want to be a stepping stone. They don't want Deion to just come and then go somewhere else big. So that's a negative, but he's a legitimate name. He is. And Luke Fickell's one that probably isn't talked about as much. And I kind of wrote in there that I didn't think he had a lot of momentum, but I still think he's sort of in the background of somebody that they would be interested in as well. So I would kind of start with those 4 and go from there. I know Matt Rule, but that's not going to happen. That doesn't make any sense to me. So.
All right. You can read more. You can read that whole story. AuburnLive.com, part of On3 Sports, and follow Hoke on Twitter @_J Hokanson. Read all this stuff, but if you are very interested in that, go back and read that story. Great breakdown of those candidates. Hoke, thanks a lot, man. Always good talking with you.
See you guys. Thanks so much.
All right, buddy. Take care. Justin Hokanson with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Please, please, please hire Deion Sanders.